I'm Susan Smith. Welcome to my studio, Stitched by Susan, and today we're filming an upright version. I just cannot seem to get the knack of exactly when to change that in the YouTube setup. I don't know. I don't think it's the same every time. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, welcome into my little studio. Today I thought I would give you a quick update on the crazy wonky quilt, which I still have loaded here. And then the topic for today is choosing thread for high contrast fabric, or in today's example, a 2-color quilt that has really, really high contrast. So let's talk first about the wonky quilt. A very tiny recap, and I have to apologize for the traffic. There's just so much of it going by my front window, but I don't think that'll stop today, so I don't think there's a better time. Anyway, a quick update on the wonky quilt. I started this one last week, and I talked about it quite a lot on my Friday live and unscripted episode, so that was May 9. So if you want to see more details on it, that's the place for it. But the deal with this wonky quilt is it's big. It was 87 inches by 106. And the center of it, which you now can't see because it's all rolled up, I'm nearly finished. The center of it was a sampler type blocks on point, and that central portion was eased into the borders. There are 8 borders on this quilt, and quite a few of them were, the central part was eased in, so they kept getting smaller and smaller a little bit. Anyway, I had gotten this quilt at a garage sale, and so I thought to myself, it's a great opportunity, sort of low bar of expectation and low level of cost and time invested, to see how far I can take easing, and it'll quilt out, right? I figured that I had about 5 inches crossways and about 7 inches of excess top to bottom. That resulted in literally a mountain range of fluff in the middle. So I won't go through all the details, but I went through several iterations of things to try, how much I could deal with. And in fact, yesterday when I went live, I showed you that I did take a pleat. One of the borders at the bottom, I literally pleated it up, hid the pleat, that's what I'm trying to say, in the seam allowance, right? So it just looks like the seam is taken up. Lost the points on my sampler blocks, but got rid of some of that excess because I literally was not able to get it all in without pleats. So I think I can unequivocally say I've gone as far as I can go with how much fabric I can ease, and that was a little beyond my limits. So got a great big pleat in it, and there are a few little tucks here and there, but it is kind of a busy calico-y type print, so I think once the quilt is washed and dried, that will all hide. Anyway, that's how it's happened. So let's see who's tuning in. Kirsten from Germany. Kirsten, you're a faithful joiner. Thanks for joining in. Linda Rogers is waving. Diana, Marilyn. Nice to see all you ladies. Okay, so here's the deal with this wonky quilt. This is the bottom edge. Yay! I'm gonna finish it up today, actually probably in the next half an hour. So I'm quite excited about that. And I managed to get, as you can see, this bottom edge is pretty straight after I took that pleat. It's right up here in one of those inner borders. After I took that pleat, it kind of came together pretty good, and it's gonna be finished here very shortly. But let's get on to today's topic proper, which is choosing thread for a high contrast quilt. And in this example, because I'm often just showing you the examples of what I've got in my studio, right? This is a client quilt coming up, and if this isn't high contrast, I don't know what is. Red and white. Doesn't get much worse. Navy and white and black and white, maybe. What thread are you gonna choose on a quilt like this? It is getting an edge to edge or all over design, right? So I'm not quilting something in the red borders and something else in the blocks, because in that case, I could choose red for the borders and white for the blocks. But I'm not quilting it that way, it's edge to edge. So what thread choice is gonna look the best on this quilt? Like so many things in the quilting world, there are, it depends sort of answers, and there are a million opinions too. One of the solutions would be to use a monofilament type thread, which is clear or semi-see-through and blends across all fabric colors, right? My personal opinion is I don't have good success quilting with that. It's a little bit, whether it's nylon or whether it's officially monofilament, it's a little bit plasticky feeling, and it's different from a thread created from fibers. I struggle with getting pretty tension and pretty stitches with that. So kind of my rule of thumb is I don't offer to use it for client quilts, because What if you get a quarter of the way into a quilt and it's disastrous and it's not working? Then what? But you've promised to deliver this. So I just don't. If I ever want to play with it and experiment with it, I do it on my own quilts, but I don't offer it to clients. I just say that's not an option for me. If you want that, you have to get someone else. And the other thing I don't love about it is that it is particularly shiny. The polyester thread that I typically use, the Isacord, does have a bit of sheen, and I'm okay with that, but the monofilament is shiny, and I don't personally like that look on a cotton quilt. So again, that's another reason where I just say, for me, that's not a choice I offer. I'm seldom happy with the results, so I don't like to offer it to clients when I'm pretty sure I won't be happy with it. Okay, few of you are tuning in. Your choices. Debbie, Tammy, Cindy, Kirsten is saying, I would choose red. Well, I do have the red here. And I did puddle a little bit of red. That's my usual way of looking at it, right? I'll get some thread and I'll literally unspool a couple of yards and make a little puddle on my quilt and move it around and see how it looks. I didn't love the red. It's very bold on the white areas. I didn't love that. But conversely, I don't love the eggshell. It's quite bold, obviously, on the red areas. So one thing that sometimes helps me make a decision is what's on the backing of a quilt. Sometimes will tend to help you lean toward one thing or another. But in this case, look, my backing is essentially the same, eggshell and red, right? So, you know, if it was fully red, that might have made me lean toward red thread, or if it was fully eggshell, I might have leaned more toward that. Anyway, my final choice, and I've talked a little bit with the quilt owner, and we're gonna have one last conversation today before I start quilting it. But my kind of middle of the road choice is to pick a thread, and I know these colors are not showing well on camera, so I'll describe it to you. To pick a thread that's kind of between. It's several shades lighter than the eggshell. It's a warm tan. And so it shows up a little on the eggshell, and it is still high contrast on the red, but it's less bold than an eggshell, or certainly than a white would be on the red. So that's what I'm leaning toward. It just kind of takes the edge off it. I can't do the same thing with the red thread because a less saturated red is going to be a pink, and I don't want to go that way, right? So with the cream / tan / deep ivory, I can go shades darker than the eggshell, and it has less high contrast with the red. So that's why I chose to go with that one. And I'm going to use the same thread top and bottom. That's my plan. Okay, let's look back at the comments. Diana, this is a big problem I have with my quilts, my Quilt Guild's charity tops. Yeah, and it's often a thing. And when I have more prints, such as this one that's loaded right now, I'll tend to find a middle color. You know, if there are browns and tans and olive greens and blues, I'll find a middle of the road color, not the dark brown, not the eggshell, but maybe the sage green, and that works well. But two color, super high contrast quilts are kind of a problem of their own, right? There's nowhere to hide that thread. Janice is suggesting silver. Not a bad idea, Janice. I'll maybe ask the owner of the quilt if she would like that and just maybe embrace the contrast. I don't know, it's a thought. I like the idea of going silver that's different from both colors as opposed to going red or eggshell, right? What I don't like about picking the lightest or the darkest shade in a quilt is that the thread almost disappears where it matches, and then it's high contrast everywhere else. So kind of that's my goal with the eggshell, right? Is to find, or with the tan, is to find something that doesn't totally match anything, that blends but doesn't disappear in one and show up in the other. Okay. Debbie, I used monofilament on my very first quilt that I stitched in the ditch using my domestic machine. I wish I could redo it. Interesting. I know some quilters who love monofilament thread, and that's so easy for them when they can't find a color that matches. But my personal opinion is I don't have good success with it, and I don't love the look of it. So not a wrong choice. If someone on here likes it, great. But I don't. Cindy, I like your choice. Good. Debbie, I used a similar thread on my cream and plum quilt. It was recommended by Annette at Sweet Pea Embroidery, and she was right. It blends in with everything. Yep, a tan is a good choice. Janice, current project Linus quilt is pink and black top, teal bottom. Oh my goodness, that's tricky. I'm curious what kind of thread you're choosing. Anyway, that's my thoughts today on a high contrast quilt. So for whatever they're worth, take what's useful to you, leave what's not. If your opinion's different than mine, that doesn't bother me at all. Thanks for joining me, you guys. Let me just tell you quickly, I am coming live for the next month or so, every day, Monday through Saturday, approximately this same time of morning. I'm in Pacific time, it's just after 9 o'clock here, just talking about impromptu and casual topics, usually having to do with something I'm working on in my quilting studio that day, with the idea in mind that I feel like these conversations, I get tips from you guys, but you get to just hear me thinking through the challenges and problems and decisions that I'm facing. And I think that that's helpful for quilters, for us to learn from each other. So that's kind of what this is all about. Click the like if you're enjoying this, and subscribe, and click the notification bell if you want YouTube to tell you when I'm going live, because the times do vary a little bit. I did create a playlist called 2025 Daily Snippets so that you can go back and watch all the daily episodes if you wish to. So that is findable on YouTube on my channel. You can just look for playlists. Okay, Rita is saying, I'm new. What is monofilament thread? Monofilament is a usually clear or sometimes a smoky colored thread. Now, monofilament is a specific, it's not a fiber, but what's the word I'm looking for? It's what it's made of, because you can also get nylon thread, which is clear or smoky colored, but it's a little bit different makeup of a different feel. But as I said earlier, the two things that I don't like is, number one, they're both a little bit plasticky and they act a little different than thread in your tension discs. You have to adjust your bobbin tension, etc. And they're almost always quite shiny, and I don't love that look on a fabric quilt. Personal opinion, but that's what monofilament thread is. But because it is see-through, you know, clear, it blends with all fabric colors. So that's why some quilters tend to lean toward that. Tammy, I recently had a black and white Irish chain with black and white floral backing. I struggled with thread choice. Yes, I agree. One of the solutions that I have found over the years is to use the finest thread that my machine can be happy stitching with. So my typical Isacord is a 40, which is a middle of the road, but fairly robust, strong thread. So if you stitch with a 60 weight or even an 80 weight thread, it's a lot finer, and therefore you get less of that high contrast look, right? Again, it's a tension thing. Like 80 weight thread can start to be a little fiddly to have that in your top thread, you know, because it's more fragile. It's more delicate. It does break more easily. You have to go slower usually, but it is an option, absolutely. Cindy, will you let us know what the final choice is? I'll try and post a picture or talk about it on tomorrow's episode. With luck, I'll have this little quilt done by tomorrow. Like I said, one more conversation to confirm with the quilt owner before I start laying down the stitches. All right, thanks you guys for joining me. It's been fun, and hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow.